Hey, friend, and welcome to today's episode. I am so excited for you to listen to this. This is my very first interview episode with my friend Katie Goebel, and I did this over on IG with her a few weeks ago. We are going to be diving into the best, most powerful hooks that you can use in your reels, in your online videos, in your presentations to really grab your audience's attention and have them excited for what you are going to be talking about. Now, I wanted to let you know that I'm going to be taking a little bit of time off in my business for the month of July, but don't you worry because I am going to be giving you some awesome past interviews that I have done with some amazing guests. So you're going to be getting tons of value for the next month, even though I might be hanging out in my backyard poolside. So I hope you go ahead and enjoy it. Please don't forget, send me an email if you want to give me some feedback. Let me know what you liked, what your big takeaways were. I am still answering emails, so I will see you over there and have a beautiful summer. Do you dream of sharing your message on stages, but are still terrified you'll mess it up? Want to crush your online videos so that you can grow your business, but you feel super awkward and hate the sound of your voice? Or maybe you simply want to feel more confident in the boardroom without reading your notes and fumbling over your words? Hello, new friend, and welcome to the Speaking and Storytelling Podcast, a show for Christ-led entrepreneurs and leaders who want to make a humongous impact in the world. I'm so glad you're here. I'm your host, Emanuela, a stage actress and playwright turned speaking coach and story consultant. Whether you want to master speaking on stages, online, in the boardroom, or the classroom, if you believe you're meant to make an impact in the world and you know your voice and story is the ticket to get you there, then this podcast is for you, my friend. Over the past 4 years, I've helped dozens of entrepreneurs find and tell their stories, speak with authority, and captivate their audience so that they can grow their visibility, further their God-given mission, and change the world. If you're ready to do that too, then sit back, grab a pen and paper, and enjoy the show.
I have no sense of time left anymore.
A couple years.
That's what I'm
sure.
thinking too. Yeah. So like in online space, that feels like that's like a million years,
Right?
But I know we're excited to talk today because I do like video and reels and short form video, and you do like presentations on stages, right? So how about we go ahead and you want to share what you do first?
Yeah. And I remember when I came across your page and I was like, oh, she does like the short videos. So I definitely know there's something here. We both are speaking to some of the same people. So I'm very excited as well, Katie, to do this. And everything you do is gold, by the way, just to say there's like zero fluff. It's like tactical, implementable. Like, thank you for everything that you do.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I try. I feel like we do pair well that way too, because I know you're just very specific about what you're doing and you make it like, easy for people to implement and like do immediately, like on the stage. I always love it when you share that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. So my background is obviously theater. I went to New York City for theater school way back when. And then my first business was teaching drama, music, and dance to older adults. So I did that from 2013. And it was awesome. Like we would put on we would put on big productions. I also did like artists in the classroom. And then in 2019, I wrote and performed my one-woman play called My Best Self, which was all about motherhood. And in 2020, I knew I wanted to come online, and then we all kind of came online,
right?
But I had no idea like how I was going to transfer my skills of performing into the online world. And I joined a mastermind, thought, okay, maybe this coach can help me figure this out. And all these entrepreneurs were coming up to me saying like, oh, help me make video. And at that time, everybody had to be making videos and going on Zoom. So I realized that like voice and speech and presence and all of that. And even I was teaching yoga at the time. So I bring that element of body awareness and physicality and presence to my work as well. And it just seemed like the light bulb went off and I was a speaking coach. That was in 2020. So now I help mostly entrepreneurs online and on stages to craft their story, to find their speak with authority and then captivate their audience. Because if you can captivate your audience, as you know, whether it's video or stage, you're going to build that raving fan community and you're going to be able to make more impact.
Yes. Yeah. 100%, man. Well, and I feel like you don't talk enough about the fact that you are trained in this. You're not just like a random person, because people online, I feel like these days can be like, hey, what's up? I got 1 million followers. Follow me to find out how you too can get 1 million followers. And usually their stuff doesn't translate because they're not actually experts in like that craft. They just had a viral video one time, you know, but like you have the expertise and you have the training, and I don't know, just, yeah, you need to talk about that more.
Thank you. I'm going to make a note of that.
Yeah, for real. Like you're totally legit. You're not just like a random fly by night online expert. Like you're a pro. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah. And yet, you know, the imposter syndrome always creeps in no matter what, because then I'm like, well, I'm not like wearing a blazer and doing these like keynote public speaking, you know, but I bring in more of the creative element to it. So if you're more of a creative, theatrical person who really loves storytelling, then we're going to connect better than maybe if you're looking for someone a little more like who has slides and is more like, you know, corporate. That's not going to be me.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I feel like, and I feel like that's a good segue even to what I do, because I'm obviously just showing up like in the corner of my house, like we're doing this, you know, we're doing this live. But those are the kinds of people that we help too, that have such a passion and a fire for what they're doing that they're like, I will stop at nothing to get my message out there. I just need to know how to like craft it. Cause like that's who I work with too, you know, people who are experts in their fields already. But it's how do they translate their message and their mission to like whatever medium it is. Like, you know, and most of the time I'm helping people with their short form video and how to talk about it and how to show up on camera and like the words to use, you know. But sometimes too, like I've done like on my bigger marketing strategy, I've also helped people like with, you know, getting on podcasts. Like we've talked about that in the past, you know, like how to pitch a podcast and who to connect with and how to like craft that message. And so anyway, but I totally relate to you on like, you don't have to have a blazer, but you might have a passion. And then, you know, if you have a passion for something, then you need to talk to me and Emanuela and we'll help you get it out there.
Yeah.
So how about we go ahead and talk about that then, like how you can get it out there. And for those of you following along at home, we're kind of breaking this down in like kind of 5 main like frameworks. And the way we'll do it is like kind of share, this is like the main topic, but then this is the way you would approach it if you're like on a stage or on video. So, sound good?
Yeah. I love your format and how you've broken it all down. So I'm excited to dig into all 5 of your pieces.
Yes. Yeah. So we're kind of following the viral hook formulas for like the 5 most popular like video categories. So this would work then if you're a speaker and you're getting your video, like giving your presentation even recorded or giving it live. So the first one we're going to talk about then is like the educational pieces. So these are like the talking head videos on short form video. And this is like when you're literally just talking to camera about whatever your expertise is. These are the kinds of things where, you know, you might say like 3 tools I use every day as a social media strategist for coaches, you know, or you might do like, if you want X, don't do X. And then all of a sudden people are clued in and they're like, well, that's what I want. What do I need to do? You know, or even like something I feel like I've been using, lately with clients is even like how, like their story of like how in X date I started doing this and then this is what happened. And you could do that, you know, with just like B-roll video with like the text on the screen, you know, that's super popular style now, or like telling your story, which I feel like is good. I don't know. That's a good segue even to like your expertise in this position. I feel like.
Yeah. I feel like too, you want to get to the heart of their where they're at that moment. And that's why I love like the caption right away at the top, because you're just like, you're hitting them right off the hat. Like you said, that's exactly what I want. Oh, that's exactly what I'm struggling with. And, but you don't have to do it in like a promo way, although you can, which we're going to get to that later. And it can just be, stuff like, did you know that blank?
Yeah.
Kind of introducing them. Or I like the story pieces very much like, I thought my life would always look like this until, right? Like what? Like paint that picture of where their life is, right? So I thought I was always just going to have pain until blank, right? Or I never knew the importance of daily walking until this. Like I'm using kind of the health scenarios, but those kind of things, like paint the picture of your story, but it should be where they are now.
Yeah.
Right? Like kind of where you were.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. That's amazing. I want to write that down.
Yeah. And when it comes to, sorry, Katie, but when it comes to live stuff too, of course, there's obviously a few differences. And that's why I love that we're talking about this, because we do have a short attention span, but if you're in a room with an audience who has decided they are going to come and they're going to listen to you, you have a little bit more leeway, a little bit more give than someone who's at home on their couch and it's just like next. They're a little bit more invested. Yeah. But I think you can still lose your audience because maybe you're at the end of the day of a conference. Like maybe you're the last speaker and they've been sitting in their chairs since 9 a.m. and you're coming on at 4, right? Like, so it's going to be harder to keep their attention. So one thing I also like to do is to get people, I know this is like science, get them to nod. So asking like, did you know that blank? Like, did you know that creating reels every single day is going to exponentially grow your audience by whatever, something where they can go yes, or they can put their hand up, because as soon as their body, as soon as their body is engaged, their mind is turned on too.
Yes. Oh, yeah, dude. I love that. I mean, that's even good. Like, that's even a good sales tactic. They talk about that, like asking like the yes questions where you're already getting them in that mindset of like, yes, I am into this. Like, I'm totally, you're already selling me already. So that's a good point. And especially when you get people moving and like they get more oxygen into their brain and they're more like aware of what's going on. That's such a good point. Okay. Well, let's move on then to like trends. Yeah. Because, I feel like that, ties in. That's like the next thing is like, you always want to have like your evergreen message that's always appealing to people, no matter what. But then trends are always just a fun way that you can, like, you might get people attention in a different way. And, with a trend, or like, obviously, like I have my quick vids trend report, right? And that's all about how maybe you're sharing the same message over and over again, but sometimes trends also are helpful if you're getting bored of talking about the same thing. And then you're like, hey, this is a fun trend because it's like maybe, some music star that's really big right now, or a song that just came out, or a movie that just came out. And you can be like, hey, this is how it applies. Like all the people last summer who wrote about Barbie or Oppenheimer and tied it into their niche. And it's like, I didn't even go to see either one of those movies. Like I truly didn't care all that much, but it was everywhere. So because the helpful part about trends is how you can attach yourself sometimes to something that people already are talking about, Yeah. So yeah, what's your take on using trends? Like, is there a way you can work it into, speaking? And
yeah, I love that you brought that up because it made me think outside the box. But I think trends in terms of like pop culture, right? So if you get up on stage or you're doing a live video, maybe you put on a song like Taylor Swift, right? Like I'm not a Taylor Swift person, but Taylor Swift is everywhere. Right. So if you want people like they like that tribalism and they like familiarity and they like comfort. So if you know your audience and you know what's going to get them to feel like excited or like that sense of community, like, oh yeah, or you maybe you come out and you say a movie quote that your audience is going to understand the reference.
Yes.
Right? Or a joke, again, that they'll understand the reference. There's nothing worse when somebody says a joke and somebody at my son's baseball the other day, he made an Ace Ventura reference, like Pet Detective, like Jim Carrey. Right. And the kids are 6. Like the parents were kind of like, oh yeah, but he was acting out Jim Carrey and it just did not land with the audience. I'm like, buddy, they are 6. Like they have not seen this movie. So know your audience and then you can play on those trends that you think, if it's a room full of women, then they might know Taylor Swift at a certain age demographic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. And even to tie back into what you were talking about like getting them to raise their hands and do things. I've also done like in my youth ministry days, I did like the either or icebreakers where you have to get people to like raise their hand for something versus the other thing. And, you know, you're right about how it can reinforce like your group culture. So you have to be really thoughtful about what your options are for people. But even when I did it like with high schoolers, it's like you could do pizza toppings and be like pepperoni or sausage, like things that are not like really triggering, but also things that like build the camaraderie. And yeah, and trends are a super easy way to do that, because the reason it's trending is because people are really interested in it already, right? So, yeah, anything you can do. And my one caveat, of course, to trends, like you already said, Emanuela, is like you have to make sure it's on brand because like when Reels first came out, I don't know if you remember this, but like when Reels first came out and songs were just starting to trend, and so many of the songs that were trending were wildly inappropriate. Things that I would never even listen to on my own, not even like apart from my children being in the car with me, you know? But nobody knew how to use them yet. So you were getting these like parenting brands and like kid brands that were playing these songs, and I was like, you don't know. But yeah.
Yeah. That's a very good point. But I love trends because it kind of takes a lot of the thought out. Like, we're always trying to come up as content creators. You're like, you want that show-stopping thing, but sometimes it's that familiarity and someone's like, "Ooh, what did she do with that? Ooh, what?" And it's kind of easy. Like, you can take that audio and spin it.
Yes.
And it's very, very easy. Very easy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And like you were just saying too, it gives you the pattern recognition, like your brain. I think that's why things trend on Reels so fast too, is because your brain starts recognizing this sound, and you're like, every time you hear this sound, you expect like a different payoff. And so that's why it's fun to see what everybody does differently from it. So, yeah. Okay. So let's talk about, like inspirational kind of stories. I know that like, you know, is totally your jam. I feel like that's like your main thing, that you want to help people have these stories that not just inspire people, but like move them, right, to some kind of action. But that's why I like the hooks I have are kind of like the things you already talked about, like what happened when I did this, or like 3 things that changed when I did this, or like, you know, even just like this example will inspire you to do this. Like if you're sharing somebody else's story, what are your thoughts on how you use the inspiration like that?
Yeah. Well, like we talked about briefly before this, was starting at the kind of the most dramatic part of your story. I'm sure you've opened a book before where it starts at that moment. Like, I was laying on the bathroom floor, you know, and then you're like, what happened? So, or even I call it like the catalyst moment. For me, it was like my conversion story. I might say, like, I was laying in bed and I heard God say, open the book. And it was, you know, from that moment on when everything changed. And so, you know, something very, a bit over the top, but at least it's like, it's going to reel people in to know, well, how did you get to that point? And obviously, like this is more for longer videos and for talks, like in a reel, you could do that too. And then maybe put the story in the caption or something, right? Like the moment that I hit rock bottom, or the moment that everything changed, like the kind of that's the climax of your story, right? And then everything's different after.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, usually most of the time, these are the reels that I'm coaching people to use as like the POV, like a point of view, or like a relatable scenario. Like, you know, I've got a client who does like organizing resources. And so it's stuff like, you know, when I use this system, I couldn't believe how X, Y, and Z changed for me. And then, you know, comment keyword for this system too. And then that's cool because people can feel themselves in that situation already. And they're like, oh my gosh, yes, I am drowning in laundry. Or like, I am like trying to figure out how to get these kids to do the dishes. And he's like, yeah, see, I'm right in the scenario with you. And that's why it's inspirational, because it doesn't feel too out of touch, but it feels like, you know, to the point where they're like, cool, I can take this next best step and like do something about this. You know, that's the thing I think about. Well, and even all the, like, I wonder what you'd say too, actually, now that I have you, what would you say about like borrowing another person's story, or like using it as an example, not stealing it, of course, but there's also plenty of times on Instagram where people will use like somebody else's story or like a meme or something. And that's why memes get trending too, because somebody's like, can you see, like, did you see this baseball thing? Or did you see the time this team did this? You know, like those things trend all the time on social media. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, like, you know, how to go about
Yeah, and that's something actually a lot of my clients, they struggle with even telling their story when it includes somebody else, especially if it's a very, difficult story. But I think there are ways around that because the beauty of that is you're not everybody and
Yeah.
somebody else might connect more to your ideal client. I mean, I'm assuming we're mostly talking to entrepreneurs, so people who want to connect to their ideal client. And so it could be like, say, Katie, you tell your story of your motherhood journey, but it's actually your mom that someone connects to, like the supporting characters in your story. So sometimes it's nice to use another story because there might be someone in your audience that resonates more with that angle of the same, again, the same message, the same brand, but from a different scenario, right? I always say, like, how do so many people love Star Wars? We can't ever put ourselves in that, like, it's so fantasy, right? It's so out there, but yet it's like, it's humongous. It's like the biggest movie of all time, perhaps. And so like, how are we relating to these characters in this scenario? It's the emotions behind the characters. It's the struggle. It's the pain. It's the journey. It's the adventure. It's that hero's journey that's what connects us. So sometimes it's just saying a story from a different perspective with different scenario that people get that like light bulb moment. Yeah.
Oh man, that's so awesome. Okay. That makes me think of even like the hero's journey that like Donald Miller teaches with like StoryBrand, right? Like it's a really common framework for people to use in their marketing that sometimes it doesn't have to always be like, even me, like in my brand, it's like sometimes I tell stories of, triumphs or struggles I had, but also sometimes it's like a client, like how I helped a client through something. So that's an excellent point you made about sometimes you might have a story to tell, but it still could be a different aspect of that somebody connects with. So that's awesome.
Yeah, like personally, I don't struggle with a fear of public speaking.
Sure.
But it's just, God graced me with that talent to, if you give me a mic, it's like, do you want this back? Because I might keep it all night long. So I have to work at being like more humble and giving it away. But a lot of people come to me and they have that struggle. And I have to think of like, well, maybe a scenario that I had a fear that could be relatable, but also I think of my clients, like I've helped clients through that.
Yeah.
So you definitely want to draw on your clients. And of course, you can always ask their permission. You don't have to use their name, but sometimes I feel weird if a client's like, is that me? Talking about me?
Right.
Like, so you do want to like just say, hey, is it cool if I use your story? And usually they're like a hard yes. If you've helped them, they're happy to help you.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. And I'm seeing more people kind of trickle in. So thanks everyone for joining us. Just to kind of recap, like we talked about using like educational pieces and how to get that curiosity going with people, how to use trends in your videos and your presentations, how to share like inspirational stories. And then this next one is, I just call them like original, but this is especially like, they're kind of educational, but they're more like thought leadership. So like, if you're sharing and this can help differentiate you as well from other people that are in your industry. So these are things like unpopular opinions or like even like industry updates and you're giving your own take on them or how it's working for you or your clients. Or like do's and don'ts. Like I'm looking at, the headlines, the hooks that I use for this is stuff like, when they say the gurus aren't telling you this, and then you tell everybody, like, let them in on the insider knowledge that you have. Or like calling out something where you're like, can we just stop doing this thing? And then this is what we should do instead. That really is a good differentiator between you and like all the other horses in the race. Whenever you're calling out, like everybody else is doing this thing, but I want to take you this direction because this will get you where you want faster or better or easier or, or even like or when you start with like, stop doing this and start doing this instead, like I have written down here, like stop, what was this? Oh yeah. Or like, you don't even have to run your business using this tool and here's why. And then you explain like what other tool you're using instead. So some of these kind of can trend like towards more like negative statements, I guess, but it's because you're calling out things a lot of times. And that's how you're building your thought leadership too, that you're like, this is what everybody else is saying. This is how I'm going to go this way and say this other thing. Have you seen that?
Yeah. And to touch on that a minute, I know some people have their qualms about like the pain point marketing, but I think you have to get to that. You have to understand their heart,
Yeah.
right? And understand what their struggles are. And sometimes it does take, I know I've personally been affected when I see someone, I'm like, oh dear, that's totally me, like
Yeah.
that. Called me
Yeah.
out for sure.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
like that. I think like somebody's in my head, somebody gets me. So
Yeah.
obviously you can use discretion on, you don't want to be like outright so mean on your followers, but also,
Sure.
yeah, pointing out their pain just, I think shows them that you understand and that you get them. And for when it comes to a presentation or a live talk, this is more like a hook that is edgy, that is a bit shocking. So yeah, I'm trying to think of an example. Let's say you're a health expert and you want to do a talk on some recent new thing you've just heard about.
Right.
You could just say something like, supplements are dead, you don't need them.
Right.
Or, like, what would I told you if I don't wear underwear to bed? Like something that's going to oh, okay, I'm going to lean in now because you've just kind of hit a nerve a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Right. These are the ones that, right, they do tend to hit nerves because but they don't have to be in a bad way. And I think that's, a value that you and I share in our businesses, and especially like in marketing, like it's all over the place. But my caveat on that too, though, is that sometimes like it's harder to make sales when you're just from like pain point marketing every time, because you're always speaking to people who are in the struggle. And what you want to find, the people who are more likely and ready to invest in you are the people who have been in the struggle, but they're ready and searching for a solution. They're the ones more likely, like it's easier to sell to them because they're like, I literally have my credit card out right now. Like, tell me why your thing is the best option. So that's why a lot of times these are good at like building up your audience and nurturing them and sharing, so that eventually whenever you do pitch or whenever you do share it, they're like, okay, you've built up credibility with me. I built up that trust because you've shown me why this thing is bad for me and this thing is better, So yeah, that's all important to keep in mind. So with that, then we could probably wrap this up with talking about the promo. Like, how do you share the pitch? How do you share the invitation? And these are, again, like we were talking about, like ready, like I always like to use the example of like when people talk about in their copy and in their words, when they're like struggling to get this, then you need this. And I would rather flip that to say, are you ready for this? Then this is what you're looking for, because you're going to get better sales and easier sales from the people that are ready to jump in, and you don't have to like go through the energy and the labor of trying to convince them that your thing is awesome. They're already like, I want the most awesome thing out there. Just tell me why your thing is awesome and I will purchase it. So yeah, that's how I always differentiate those two when it comes to promoting and sharing your product,
Yeah. And I've heard people say, which I'm sure you will agree with this, is like, speak to the person who you can use your reels and use your content to create that problem awareness, but you really want to speak to, when it comes to promos, the person who's ready to buy, who knows they have the problem, who knows who knows there's a solution to their problem, but hasn't decided that you're the person, right? Because there's a gajillion, and like, I will tell you this, I can get the same results for you as any other speaking coach. And you know what? Sometimes people tell me why they picked me, because I'm Catholic or I'm a mom so there is the beauty in showing yourself and telling your story and being you, because how are you going to set yourself apart from a gazillion other coaches and entrepreneurs out there that are doing what you're doing? It's your story. Exactly. Like, really, when I ask my clients, why me? They're like, oh, because you're Catholic, or, oh, because, it's like, really?
Right.
Like, not because I had the best, marketing material. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is dude, what you just said there, I want to like box that out as like its own quote, because I feel like that wraps up like the current like online economy so well, because you don't really want to compete with people on like your education, because it's like, well, there's a million things. You can go to YouTube and literally learn everything. You don't have to buy anybody's course. You can just read books and watch YouTube videos for free. Like, you don't have to buy anyone's course, but why would you buy someone's course? Because of all the things that you just said, because you're relatable, because you show them how you overcame a struggle, how you've helped 100 people overcome this struggle, and you did it in this real way. Like, even like thinking about the times that people have invested with me too, they're like, it's because you're strategic, you're encouraging. It's because I can see that you really know what you're doing. Like, you're showing up, and you're not like it's not the super professional polished appearance, but that's okay because that's what my people want to see. They want to
You're
see
real.
somebody that's like, yeah, doing it in the day to day.
Yeah, I just yesterday heard a coach say what you were just talking about before, just to tie it up, is I agree. Like if you're always talking about the pain, when people buy from the pain, they probably won't get results because they a lot of times just want to stay in the pain.
Yeah.
And then if you're like way out here in paradise and they don't know how the heck they're going to get there and they don't believe that, they're like, oh, and that's how I feel with a lot of these like luxury brand. It's like, okay, well, I don't really want to be on a yacht. I mean, hey, I might one day, but like, that's not my reality right now with, you know, my little kids and my homeschooling life. I want someone who gets my season right now. So really what you have to show that you can get them from point A to point B, because they know they're in point A and they know you're in point B, but they don't know how the heck they're going to get there. And that's, you know, that's what your marketing can do. And that's why I love stories, because stories illustrate that and it pulls out their emotions. And it's like, oh yeah, now I feel it. Now I see it. Now I understand it.
Yeah.
I get how that works.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Cause they can put themselves in that and be like, okay, this person, and even like, you know, like from a promo marketing perspective, that's why like testimonials are so important. And you can use those in your speaking because you'll share, this is X person. This is where they were when we started working together. After so much such time, this is where they were, you know? I just did that with one of my coaches this week. Like it's a mastermind that I'm in, and I worked with her literally off and on for the last 4 years. And I didn't even realize when I got on the call with her. Yeah, I didn't even realize how as she's asking me questions, I'm like, oh my gosh, I really did do that. Like,
that's beautiful. What a testament to her. Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's awesome. P.S. You should definitely check out her stuff because she's she's got a free event going on right now. Too, but she's also, like you were saying, she's sharing. It's funny, the point you made, Emanuela, about luxury to you is not like the yachts and the handbags. And she says that all the time because she's about to have her 6th baby, and she's like, look, that is not like what I want is the time with my family and be able to do. And she's Jewish. So like, she's like to be able to do our bar mitzvahs and our bat mitzvahs and like have the time with all of their Jewish holidays. Yeah. And she's like, that's luxury to me, is to know that I have money coming in even while I'm like playing with my kids and like, you know, taking care of them. It's not the bags, but that's why she has to keep sharing that story over and over again, because people will be like, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Like, I want that thing that you have. So anyway, and honestly, the way, like, hopefully for people who've been listening, the way we've been talking about all this content is that when you get to the pitch, people will be like ready and wanting to hear it. And they'll be already like sold on your stuff. And they'll already be like, yes, I already love the way you presented X, Y, and Z. It feels like you know exactly where I'm at right now. And so then, like, the part that I want to like to remember here is that selling is service in this point. Like when you're at this point with somebody, you have something that can definitely help them. Like, don't be selfish about holding back. Mm-hmm. Like, be generous and share the opportunity with them and invite them to like into a better reality or into a better situation, because you have the possibility to help people like that. So yeah, that's always what I remember at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And it took me a long time to wrap my brain around that selling a service. And I think a lot of new entrepreneurs have that, like, I don't get it. I'm asking them for money, but like, but you can only take them so far. People only pay attention when they pay for the attention, right? So they're gonna be like, oh, cool, real. Yeah, I should really do that. Okay, now I'm gonna look at cat videos. Like, they're not invested in long term.
Right, exactly. Right. So that's why whenever you use the hooks and the reels and the jazz and like the openers that we just shared with you, you will get their attention and you will have shared so much of the story and warmed them up, and they'll feel like, like if you want them to be your best friend, you can craft your brand story to feel like your best friend. Or if you craft it like you want to be a thought leader, that's when you talk to Emanuela, so she can help you like set that up so it's all on brand. And, like your stories are speaking to the people you want to speak to. And then when you're like, cool, I have my story, how do I translate it to short form video? That's when you can talk to me and we'll figure out ways to do that. So, Emanuela, what is the best way right now for people to like get in touch with you or like work with you right now?
Right now, I have one-on-one coaching for the summertime. My group program is Captivating Speakers Academy, but it launches in the fall. So if you want to get started now, we can do some one-on-one stuff, and you'll have access to that as well. But you can follow me here on Instagram. And I just recently launched my podcast, the Speaking and Storytelling Podcast. So if you're a podcast listener, if you're a mom, you probably are, because they're easy to take with you. So go listen to that. There's 7 episodes, a whole 7 right now, but it feels like an achievement. 7.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. I mean, I feel like most people are like, I guess I got 1 episode. Like, if you already have enough content for 7, like you're amazing.
It's a learning curve, but I'm having a lot of fun. And I can drop, if anybody wants the on-camera checklist that I have, it just goes through. I mean, I'm sure you've got a lot of this stuff, but it actually helps you prepare your physical self. So doing like a warm up and prepare your script. So once you have that hook, what else are you going to say? This is more for like a live video. And I would love to, the thing that we are talking about, this outline that you have.
Oh, yes.
You should definitely get that, everybody who's listening, because it's.
Yeah. 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 I might have to make that I have to put it somewhere, I think, to make it valuable to people. And in yours too, is there like a link in your bio where they can get the checklist as well?
Yes. Or you can drop camera maybe in the comments, and I can, I can send it to you.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. And then I've got, the easiest way, like, cause I have my one-on-one messaging intensives as well, to, basically like how to take your message and translate it into like all your different content channels. That's super fun. But also, if you want to just get started with Reels and trying to translate your message to Reels, then my trend report, you can get in just for $30 a month. And I give you the literal audio links and the literal hooks. So all you have to do is like open up the newsletter and like click the blue button and, put your video up, and like you can do it. Like, I have people tell me they've done like 4 reels in 10 minutes with it. So it's a major time saver. Yeah. Super, super fun. But this is amazing, Emanuela. I'm so happy we finally got to do this. Yes. And I'm hoping if I can figure out whenever I get this off of here, I can save it and we can like do a bunch of other fun stuff with the video. So, but you guys are awesome. Thank you to everybody who joined us. Make sure you follow, Emanuela. What is it? At Emanuela Hall, right?
Emanuela.hall.
There it is. Yep. I knew I was missing something. Okay. So at Emanuela.hall, and then I'm at Katie Goebel online, and you guys are awesome. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. Bye. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Speaking and Storytelling Podcast. Now, I'd love to hear your voice. What's one thing you learned from today's episode? How did it inspire you? And how will you take action today? You can let me know by leaving a review or visit me on Instagram at emanuela.hall. My friend, remember that you were born for such a time as this. So get out there and fearlessly share your unique God-given voice, because it just might be the thing that changes the world.